And one of the first things that happens when we transition from worshipers to idolaters, from the truth that there is one creator God and we are made in His image and likeness, to the lie that we can do something to be like God, is that distinctions are eradicated. And what we see early on in Genesis is that ours is a God of distinction. In Genesis 1 and 2, we see that God separated. God uses that language in His Word. He separated light from darkness and water from land and day from night, sky from land, mankind from animals, God from mankind, creator from created. There are distinctions. As soon as the lie comes and we fall from worshipers to idolaters, those distinctions are obliterated so that all are one. So today there is not a clear distinction between God and mankind, mankind and animals, particularly in radical environmentalism, mankind and the rest of creation, God and creation in pantheism, panentheism, avatarism, and the like. There is no distinction between men and women, which results in homosexuality and bisexuality and lesbianism, and accounts for why people like Lindsay Lohan can go from Mouseketeers to flirting with bisexuality, and no one seems to have any particular interest. And we can have Christian artists get on television, seemingly Christian artists get on television and talk about their desires for lesbianism in recent months, and no one seems to be all that interested because there is no distinction in the lie between men and women, and there's ultimately no distinction between Jesus and the other religions. That our God is a God who distinguishes and separates. That's the truth. The lie is the eradication of those distinctions and God-given separations. So, the result is sin. The idol is the object, and sin is the worship act. There is continued unceasing outpouring, but it is for the lie. It is not for the truth. It is for created things rather than Creator God. And those of you who are in ministry, you're dealing with all the effects of the lie and idolatry. Paul has some particularly helpful words on this in 1 Corinthians 10. Read with me what he says. Do not be idolaters as some of them were. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in pagan revelry. We should not commit sexual immorality as some of them did, and in one day 23,000 of them died. Therefore, my dear friends, flee from idolatry. Paul does something here that modern-day theologians tend not to do, that counseling, which has been in large part infused with oneism and the lie, does not do, and that is to get to the root of the problem, the cause, rather than just the effects. See, today were you to go into the store, you would not find a section on idolatry. You would find a section on food and overeating. You would find a section on drinking and the Alcoholics Anonymous manual. Here's what Paul says. The eating problem, the drinking problem, the pagan problem, the pervert problem is ultimately all manifestations of one problem, the idol problem. The idol problem. And because today the focus is on behavior modification, not regeneration, so much preaching is what Christian Smith calls moralistic therapeutic deism. God's far away, He wants you to be good, so He's going to give you a few rules to live by. There's no Savior, no Redeemer, no deliverance from oneism to twoism, from the lie to the truth, from the worship of created things to the worship of the Creator God. It's just simply behavior modification. So eat less and drink less and keep your spirituality somewhat respectable and sexually do all you can to at least try and keep your life from spinning completely out of control. But people are unceasing outpouring. Gluttony is idolatry. Drunkenness is idolatry. Fornication, friends with benefits, homosexuality, bestiality, bisexuality, adultery, pornography is idolatry. drinking to drunkenness, substance abuse is idolatry. You need to understand that the world we live in is absolutely, passionately committed to pouring itself out for created things and not the Creator God. People are worshiping everywhere, all the time. The question is, who are they worshiping? What are they worshiping? How are they worshiping? Not if. As image bearers of God, we are worshipers. But as fallen worshipers, we are now idolaters. That's why Martin Luther, in his commentary on the Ten Commandments, he makes this interesting observation that if you don't break the first two commandments, you won't violate the rest. There's one God and you worship Him alone. He says, if that's true, you won't worship sex and commit adultery. If that's true, you won't worship possessions and steal. If that's true, you won't worship your image, identity, and lie. You won't worship anger or control and murder. Everyone's a worshiper.